everyone. My name is Gianna. I am a wife, a mother, a teacher, and most recently, a hypothyroid advocate. I was diagnosed just 3 weeks ago, and I'm making my first video. I hope that you'll follow me on this journey as I continue to learn more about this diagnosis. For starters, I've created an acronym, HYPO, and we're going to talk about 4 main points. The H in hypo represents hair. Some of the symptoms I was experiencing for the past 4 or 5 months was hair loss. I've always had a ton of hair to spare, I say, but when I'd go to make a ponytail, it was noticeably smaller. So that was one of my first signs. Extreme fatigue. I was tired all the time. I had moments when I told my husband, I'm so sorry, but I have absolutely no energy to do anything. I had chalked that up to having 3 children, ages 6 and under, to waking up at 4:30 Monday through Friday to teach online from 5 to 7 a.m. I thought, this is how life is going to be now. I'm just very tired during this season. It's normal. I need to accept it. I also had a very difficult time losing weight. The number I saw on the scale was the highest it's ever been outside of my pregnancies, and walking and exercising and trying to eat well didn't help. The numbers stayed the same. Those were my main symptoms. Other symptoms include brittle nails, sore muscles. So if you have experienced any of these signs in your body and you think that maybe you have a thyroid problem or you have a slight suspicion, my suggestion is to go get checked. Some of these symptoms can be mistaken for postpartum depression. It's easy to be misdiagnosed. It's not something that only affects women, it also affects men, but we're 7 times more likely as women to develop hypothyroid problems. So get checked out if you're not sure. They'll draw your blood at the doctor's office and they will check your T3 and T4 hormonal levels, which is what your thyroid produces. And when there's a problem with it, it doesn't produce as many T3 and T4 hormones, and that'll come up in your lab results. So if you have any suspicion at all, be safe and get checked out. So what exactly is the thyroid? I'm so glad you asked. I am calling it the VIP gland located in your neck. It is very small, but it controls and contributes to every single part of your body. It controls areas like metabolism, which is why when it's hypo or a low functioning thyroid, you feel like you have no energy at all. It can eventually lead to harder issues like obesity, heart disease if you don't get it taken care of, and it also affects your fertility. This is if you are a male or if you are a female, it does not matter. If you're not taking the correct medicine or if it's not being controlled naturally, it affects things like your fertility as well. The Y represents you. We're going to talk about self-care for a little bit. As soon as I was diagnosed, I began researching, looking online, sites like Pinterest, Google. I went to the library and checked out a ton of books on thyroid problems to figure out how I could try to naturally reverse it or at least deal with it so I wasn't feeling as sluggish as I had been. And so something I kept seeing was gluten-free diets. Now for me, bread is life, pasta is life. And I used to roll my eyes at people, my apologies, when I'd hear that they decided to go gluten-free. And I'm not exaggerating. Once I made the choice to stop consuming gluten in my diet, 2 days later, I felt 10 times better. I felt like a fog had been lifted, the veil was lifted from my eyes, and like I was restored back to normal health. I didn't have as much bloating. I started walking every day just for 20 minutes around the trails we have by our home. And within 1 week, I was down 5 pounds, something that seemed nearly impossible the previous 4 to 5 months. So the main foods you want to avoid if you have a hypo or underfunctioning thyroid are wheat, to avoid soy products. If you look at the ingredients listed on different kinds of foods, especially processed foods, they usually have soy. You also want to consume as little sugar as possible. There are a couple of food items that surprise me that are also some of my favorites. Strawberries hinder the thyroid function, so I no longer eat those. Peaches also. Outside of strawberries and peaches, most fruit is fair game. Some of my favorite vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower we're not supposed to have. Everything else is pretty good. Peanuts also. So I began looking for substitutes for these items because I knew I would miss eating them. So I'm going to share some of my favorite products with you that I found at our local grocery store that you can find at yours as well. So first, because I can't have peanuts, I started trying sun butter, and I actually really like sun butter. It's made from sunflower seeds instead of peanuts, and it has the same consistency, and the flavor is so similar I can barely tell the difference. So this is a win. This is a win. I'll have it on apples or bananas, and it's a great dose of protein, and it's a wonderful snack that fills me up. I've started eating oatmeal every morning, just this instant, organic, maple spice oatmeal. Since I'm trying to stay away from sugar, this gives me the little bit of sweet that I need without overdoing it. And I've had this every morning, and I've felt a difference in how I feel. What I usually put in the oatmeal is 1 teaspoon of coconut oil. You can read about the many benefits of this, but it's especially good for us who have hypothyroids to consume at least 1 teaspoon per day. I suggest putting it in your oatmeal or in a smoothie or any other sort of meal or combination where it gives it a coconut flavor, but maybe you don't feel the consistency of it. I tried just grabbing a teaspoonful and putting it in my mouth a couple times, and I couldn't take the consistency. It was gross. I felt like, because I felt like I was eating butter. But as an add-on, as flavor, it really does the trick. I can't do flour anymore, which is a shame because I love to bake. So I purchased tapioca flour, almond flour. I'm not going to lie, some of the recipes I've tried have been hits, others have been misses, but we're learning and we're in this together. Also, instead of regular sugar, I found this organic coconut palm sugar that I'm going to be experimenting with to use as a substitute. Because again, I'm trying to stay away from sugar that hinders the function of my thyroid. I found some snacks for when I get hungry in between meals. I really like these Bear Baked Crunchy coconut chips. You always want to look at the ingredients on things you purchase. So here I just see coconuts, sea salt, garlic powder, onion powder, ground pepper, chili powder, and paprika extract. There is some cane sugar in them, but it's not a large amount. And they're sweet and they're spicy, which is what I like. Brazil nuts. This is going to give you the daily dose of selenium that you need, which is something the thyroid produces that we're lacking. 2 of them per day is like taking a selenium supplement. I did purchase some supplements that would help, including selenium. Doctors usually recommend at least 200 micrograms, which is what this is, and a B100 complex. Outside of this, I take my usual vitamin, which is a multivitamin supplement, and vitamin D. I had started taking these last semester because I felt so low on energy. I'd already been taking the multivitamin, but read that vitamin D would help with energy, and of course spending time outside. All of these things have made me feel 100 times better. I feel like maybe my thyroid problem has been reversed naturally. I usually have about 3 to 4 really, really good days, and then I'll have a hard moment or a hard day where I'm reminded, no, I still have a thyroid problem. So this coming Friday, I'm going to go see a specialist to see what they say. In addition to changing my diet, which has not been easy, but has been worth it, I also joined a gym. I only go twice a week. I wanted to make a realistic goal where I was going to be moving more. So having accountability through my husband and a friend of mine that holds me accountable and asks me if I've exercised each week has also helped. When I don't go to the gym, I try to get outside and walk, have family exercise time in our yard, just to get moving, to get my heart rate up so that improves the thyroid as well. Last thing that has helped me is keeping a journal. I started this journal on the first day when I got the diagnosis, and each day I've missed a few days, but sometimes I'll write days 1 through 3, for example. I write down how I'm feeling. If I'm not feeling well, I write down what I ate that day to see if there's any correlation between the two. Again, I was diagnosed just 3 weeks ago, so I'm very new to this, and I realize I'm not going to see or feel 100% better overnight, but I already feel much better. So I wanted to share what I've been doing, so hopefully if you're struggling, you can do some of these things and see positive results as well. The P stands for purpose. I feel like I've had a shift in purpose and in how I see things through this diagnosis. It's made me thankful that I received this diagnosis, so I'm able to change and better myself and be healthier for myself and those around me. In a change in purpose, I just want to be real for a second. Something I've discovered is that before this diagnosis, I was highly addicted to sugar and processed foods and convenience. I justified things because I usually cooked for my family. We typically ate chicken and stayed with white meat, avoided most red meats, and so I thought we were doing well. But when I'd go to parties or when pizza was offered to me, I seldom said no, and I'd down 2 to 3 slices of pizza. I always said yes to the cake and cookies and cupcakes, and I justified it because I said, well, I usually eat well, and I'm out today or I'm at a party, which happens frequently in South Texas, at least once a week, and I was addicted to sugar. I've talked to many other people who have hypothyroidism, and it's not easy. It's not easy to make a lifestyle change, but friends, that is the only way we're going to get better. The underlying issue is not our diagnosis. The underlying issue is that we are addicted to food and that we are addicted to sugar. I'm just calling it what it is because I've recognized that's where I was. I've passed some tests recently. I've been to 2 different parties and showers that had a plethora of cupcakes, and my favorite kind with the really sugary buttercream frosting on top that I used to love to lick and eat with the cupcake, and I've stayed away because no amount of anything tasting good is worth me feeling bad, not even close. And I could sit around and mope and say, oh, I can't eat bread anymore, I can't have pasta anymore, and I can complain and be sad about it, or I can give thanks and say, you know what, for 35 years of my life, I was able to eat mostly whatever I wanted with little consequence. Why am I especially passionate about this topic? Because I live in South Texas, and we are number 1 in our country for obesity, and number 1 in our country for diabetes. And a lot of that is related to our diet. I love our cultural food. It's made with lots of flour and fat, but it's not very good for us. I also live in the poorest city in America, Brownsville, so I don't like expensive things. And I'm going to be honest, my grocery bill this month has been more expensive since I've modified my diet. And it is a sacrifice. The first time I went to the grocery store after receiving my diagnosis, I was there for 2.5 hours, reading through all the ingredients, putting back my standard staples that I usually get because I could no longer eat them. But I told myself this was going to be cheaper in the long run, even if it meant paying more for groceries every month. Maybe it means me avoiding going to the hospital. Maybe it means me avoiding expensive medication because my thyroid can't be regulated. Whatever it means, it is worth the trade-off, I promise. It is worth the investment. The O is for optimism. Our attitudes, friends, influence so much of what we do. So we need to think good thoughts and think positively when we receive a diagnosis like hypothyroidism. We need to adopt a growth mindset. Instead of saying, I can no longer eat this, I can no longer eat that, we need to shift our mind and say instead, I get to perform what feels like a science experiment on my body. I get to see if through faith and prayer and doing natural things, I can be healed. I get to find that out. I get to be a voice for hypothyroidism. I get to help other people along in their journey, and I get to learn new things about myself. For so many of those months last semester when I didn't know what was going on, I felt like a stranger in my own body. I know it's difficult. I know it's hard. I know sometimes you don't feel like getting out of bed and you don't have motivation, but you need to find motivation. Think about your spouse. Think about your children. I have 3 children ages 6 and under. I could crawl into bed and just stay there. Actually, I can't. I can't do that. I can't. I think about them. I think about their future. I think about my energy. I want to be here. I believe our days are numbered. When my time is up, it was meant to be up. But I want my quality of life while I'm here to be the best that it can be. And living with this diagnosis the way I was not at my best. Now that I know what was going on and I can help fix it, I'm going to do just that. So I'm not going to preach to the choir here, but the last thing that has helped me remain optimistic is not a belief in myself and what I can do, though I'm having to do a lot and it's worth it, but it's because I'm a person of faith. And when I received this diagnosis, my church encouraged us to do the Proverbs Project, which is where we write a proverb a day. And the book of Proverbs is in the center of the Bible, and it's a wonderful book of wisdom. Whether you're a person of faith or not, you could agree that it is a wonderful work of literature, and it has a ton of stuff for you to learn, whether or not you believe there is a God. So in my journal, each day, I began writing down different verses from Proverbs, and I would check them off my list. And a theme that I saw over and over and over again, day 6, Proverbs 3:7 through 12, said, "Don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Then, there's that then, you will have healing for your body and strength for your bones." And this isn't the only time Proverbs mentioned it. I see it as a theme that keeps occurring. Do this, then that. And this isn't something I've said or I copied it down, but I wasn't the author of the book of Proverbs. It's not my original idea. So I'm putting this on the Lord and I'm praying. I'm saying, you say, then I will have healing for my body and strength for my bones. Whether or not I'm healed, I have yet to see. But I do ask for your prayers and for you to join me on this journey so that we can learn together. Thank you so much.